More than 2,600 years ago, a small group of people in ancient Greece did something revolutionary. They stopped explaining the world through gods and myths and started using reason and observation instead. That moment was the true birth of Western philosophy and science. Before this era, the universe was a place of defined whim. If the sea raged, it was Poseidon's anger, and if the crops failed, it was Demeter's grief. Life was an unpredictable drama dictated by the gods, and humans were merely spectators to their power. But in the vibrant port cities of Ionia, a new way of thinking emerged, a seismic shift known as the transition from mythos to logos. Mythos represented the poetic, supernatural stories of old, while logos represented the logical, rational account of reality. These first thinkers, whom we call the Pre-Socratics, began to view the universe not as a chaotic playground for deities, but as a cosmos, an ordered, beautiful system governed by laws that the human mind could actually decode through observation and deduction. This shift was perhaps the most important software update in the history of human consciousness, setting the stage for everything we know as modern science today.
We begin our journey in the city of Miletus with Thales, the man often called the first philosopher. Thales looked at the incredible diversity of nature and asked a radical question. Is there a single underlying substance that connects everything? His conclusion was that everything is water. While this might sound strange to a modern ear, the brilliance lay in his methodology. He noticed that water uniquely takes three forms: solid, liquid, and gas, and that it is essential for all life. By choosing a material substance rather than a divine one, he established the search for the arche, or the first principle of all things. His student, Anaximander, pushed this further, arguing that the first principle couldn't be something as specific as water. Instead, he proposed the apeiron, the boundless or the infinite. He imagined an eternal, undifferentiated source from which all opposites, like hot and cold or wet and dry, emerged. This was a massive leap into abstract thought, moving from what we see to what we can only conceive through the power of reason.
Moving from the coastal city of Miletus to the bustling center of Ephesus, we meet the enigmatic Heraclitus, often remembered as the weeping philosopher for his melancholy view of human ignorance. Heraclitus famously declared panta rhei, or everything flows. You've likely heard his most famous insight. You cannot step into the same river twice. Why? Because new waters are always flowing on, and, in a sense, you aren't even the same person you were a moment ago. To Heraclitus, the universe wasn't a collection of static objects, but a continuous, restless process. He identified fire as his arc, the fundamental element. Think about a flame. It's never still. It's constantly consuming and transforming everything it touches. Yet, he didn't see the world as pure chaos. He introduced the logos, an underlying rational law that governs this change. The logos maintains a harmony of opposites. Just like a bow or a lyre works through the tension of opposing forces, the world stays ordered because conflict and change are perfectly balanced. For Heraclitus, what we perceive as stability is actually a beautiful high-speed dance of motion.
In direct opposition to the fluid, fire-driven world of Heraclitus, we find Parmenides of Elea. While Heraclitus saw constant flux, Parmenides made a shocking claim. Change itself is a complete illusion. He wasn't just guessing, he was the first philosopher to use rigorous deductive logic to reach a conclusion, even when it flew in the face of common sense. His argument was elegantly simple. What is, and what is not, cannot be. Think about the implications. If something changes, it must move from being to non-being. But Parmenides argued that non-being is a logical impossibility. You cannot truly think of nothing without making it something in your mind. Therefore, he concluded that reality must be a single, unchanging, eternal, and indivisible sphere of being. This created a massive crisis in Greek thought. If our eyes see movement and growth, but our logic says it's impossible, which do we trust? This tension between the senses and the mind became the central theme of Western philosophy, forcing every thinker from Plato to Einstein to reconcile the eternal laws of logic with the messy, changing world we live in.
While some searched for the material stuff of the world, Pythagoras of Samos looked for its hidden structure. He is a figure shrouded in mystery and legend, leading a communal society that treated mathematics with a reverence usually reserved for the divine. His revolutionary insight was simple but world-changing. All is number. Pythagoras discovered that the physical world obeys precise mathematical ratios. He proved this most famously through music. He realized that the pitch of a vibrating string is tied directly to its length. If you have the string, you get a perfect octave. This was not just about sound. It was a revelation that nature speaks a mathematical language. This led him to the majestic concept of the harmony of the spheres, the idea that the entire cosmos is arranged according to beautiful geometric proportions, humming with a celestial music we simply cannot hear. By shifting our focus from matter to mathematics, Pythagoras became the grandfather of modern physics. He taught us that beneath the surface chaos of the world lies an invisible, elegant structure of numbers waiting to be decoded, a belief that still drives every scientist today.
As the pre-Socratic era matured, Democritus of Abdera proposed a brilliant bridge between the clashing ideas of his predecessors. He faced a difficult puzzle. How can the world be both eternal and constantly changing? He agreed with Parmenides that fundamental reality must be unchanging, but he sided with Heraclitus in acknowledging that change is an undeniable reality we experience every day. His solution was the birth of atomic theory. Democritus proposed that the universe is made of only two things: atoms, from the Greek word atomos, meaning indivisible, and the void, which is simply empty space. These atoms are eternal and constant, but their arrangement is fluid. Imagine them like cosmic building blocks. When they hook together, a tree, a star, or a human being is born. When they scatter, that thing dies. This marked the arrival of materialism, the radical idea that everything, including our very thoughts and souls, is the result of physical parts interacting mechanically. It is truly staggering to realize that over 2,000 years before the invention of the microscope, Democritus used nothing but pure philosophical reasoning to glimpse the hidden microscopic foundation of our entire physical reality.
The questions these thinkers raised, from Thales to Democritus, still define the very boundaries of our philosophy and science today. When Thales first asked, "What is the world made of?" he wasn't just guessing about water. He was beginning the long, rigorous journey that would eventually lead us to the periodic table of elements. When Heraclitus and Parmenides wrestled with how things can change while staying the same, they weren't just debating semantics, they were laying the heavy stones for the foundation of metaphysics. But perhaps their greatest invention wasn't a specific theory, but the critical tradition itself. Unlike religious dogmas that demanded silent, blind faith, these philosophers actively encouraged their students to argue, to doubt, and to improve upon their ideas. They transformed the universe from a terrifying, chaotic mystery into a logical puzzle that invited the human mind to solve it. They are the true founders of Western rational thought because they were the first to insist that nature must have natural, observable causes. They took the lightning bolt out of the hands of Zeus and placed it firmly within the realm of physics.
The influence of the Pre-Socratics cannot be overstated. They were the giants upon whose shoulders Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle stood. Consider how Plato spent much of his career trying to bridge the massive gap between Parmenides' eternal, unchanging being and Heraclitus' world of constant, chaotic flux. Without their radical groundwork, the famous theory of forms might never have been conceived. Later, Aristotle took their raw observations of the natural world and systematized them into the very first foundations of biology and physics. Every time we apply a mathematical formula to predict a planetary orbit or use formal logic to deconstruct a complex argument, we are active participants in a tradition that began on the sun-drenched streets of Ionia. These pioneers taught us that the human mind is a spark of the universal logos, uniquely capable of grasping the deep, hidden truths of our existence. As we reflect on this monumental journey from mythos to logos, we realize they didn't just provide us with answers, they gave us a new way to be human, a life defined by relentless curiosity, rigorous reason, and the endless pursuit of truth.